My mom laughed when my sister called me 35 and still single. Within seconds, almost 20 relatives were laughing too. They all believed I was the lonely daughter who couldn't find love. No one knew I'd been keeping one life-changing secret for almost 3 years. I quietly picked up my glass, took one sip, and placed it back on the table. Before Thanksgiving dinner was over, everything my family believed about me would change forever. My name is Claire Bennett, and at 35 years old, I had learned one painful lesson. Sometimes the people who have known you the longest know you the least. Every Thanksgiving, my parents hosted a huge family dinner. Nearly 20 relatives filled the house with laughter, stories, and smiles that looked perfect from the outside. But every year, I was the joke. This Thanksgiving felt no different. I arrived a little early carrying a homemade apple pie, hoping to help my mother before everyone else arrived. She barely looked at me. "Oh, Claire," she said while arranging flowers, "just leave the pie on the counter." No hug. No smile. No happy Thanksgiving. Just another reminder that I wasn't the daughter she was excited to see. A few minutes later, the front door opened again. My younger sister, Sophia, walked in wearing a designer coat and sparkling diamond earrings. Her husband followed behind carrying 2 expensive bottles of wine. The entire room lit up. "There she is," my mother said proudly as she rushed to hug her. My beautiful daughter. Everyone surrounded Sophia with compliments. "You look amazing. I heard you got another promotion. You deserve it." Sophia smiled as if she expected every word. Then, she looked at me. A slow smile crossed her face. The kind of smile that always meant trouble. "So," she said loudly, "our Thanksgiving tradition is still alive." The room became quiet. She raised her wine glass. "Another year. And Claire is still 35. And still single." Laughter spread around the table. Some people laughed because they found it funny. Others laughed because everyone else did. My mother laughed the loudest. "I've stopped asking when she'll settle down," she joked. "Maybe next Thanksgiving she'll finally bring someone." Even my father smiled without looking up from the turkey. I stayed silent. I'd heard the same jokes for years. Birthdays. Christmas. Family reunions. Someone always mocked my age. Someone always mocked my relationship status. And no one ever stopped to ask why I kept my personal life private. Instead, they created their own version of my life. Sophia wasn't finished. "You know, Claire," she said with a grin, "if dating apps aren't working, I know a few nice gentlemen at the retirement community where I volunteer." The room burst into laughter again. I slowly lifted my glass of sparkling water, took one sip, then placed it gently back on the table. The tiny sound of the glass touching the wood somehow silenced the entire room. I looked around the table. My mother. My father. My sister. My uncles. My cousins. Every single person who thought they knew my story. Then I smiled. Not because their jokes were funny, but because I finally realized I didn't need anyone's permission to tell the truth. "I guess," I said calmly, "this is the perfect time to explain why everyone thinks I'm still single." The smiles slowly disappeared. Sophia folded her arms. "What are you talking about?" I took a deep breath, then said the one sentence no one at that table expected to hear. "I'm not single." The room fell completely silent. I've been happily married for almost 3 years. My father's carving knife stopped in midair. My mother's smile disappeared instantly. Sophia stared at me in disbelief. Finally, she forced out a nervous laugh. Nice joke. I calmly shook my head. I'm not joking. My mother frowned. If you're really married, then where is your husband? I looked around the table one last time before quietly answering. That's exactly the question none of you ever cared enough to ask. The room fell completely silent. No one reached for their food. My mother stared at me in disbelief. You've been married for 3 years? I nodded. Yes. My father slowly lowered the carving knife. And you never told us? I looked at him calmly. No. Sophia crossed her arms. If that were true, someone in this family would know. I smiled. That's the problem. No one ever asked. You were all too busy judging my life instead of caring about it. No one had a response. For the first time, the silence belonged to them. My mother finally whispered, If you're really married, where is your husband? I glanced at my phone. I invited him. Just then, the front doorbell rang. A few moments later, my mother returned with a tall man in a navy blue suit. He walked straight toward me, smiled warmly, and gently held my hand. Sorry I'm late, sweetheart. My flight was delayed. I smiled back. I'm just glad you're here. Then I turned to my family. Everyone. This is my husband. Michael Bennett. The room froze. Sophia's smile disappeared. My father stood in shock. After a long silence, my uncle finally asked, So, what do you do? Michael smiled politely. I'm the regional director of Bennett Healthcare Systems. We oversee 8 hospitals across the state. Sophia's face instantly turned pale. Your company works with my law firm. Michael nodded. Yes, it does. My mother looked at me with tears in her eyes. Why didn't you tell us? I answered honestly. I stopped explaining my life to people who had already decided who I was. The words hit everyone hard. My father lowered his head. We thought you were lonely. I smiled softly. I wasn't lonely. I was happy. I just didn't need anyone's approval. Sophia looked at me with regret. I'm sorry, Claire. I thought I knew you. I shook my head. You only knew the version of me you created. My mother's voice broke. I spent years introducing you as the daughter who could never settle down. I'm so sorry. I reached across the table and gently held her hand. I didn't come here to embarrass anyone. I only wanted the truth to finally have a place at this table. For the first time in years, my family wasn't laughing at me. They were finally listening. As Michael and I walked out that evening, he squeezed my hand. You okay? I smiled. Better than ever. That night, I realized something I'll never forget. The best response to people who underestimate you isn't anger. It's building a life so full of peace that their opinions no longer matter. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell for more inspiring stories every week. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.